Welcome back to the main stage. We are so thrilled that you are staying with us throughout the day. Of course, we're excited to round out day 2 with a real focus on advocacy and the partnership that must exist between each of you as changemakers and the government. Up next, we will have 2 main stage sessions happening back to back. We're going to make it easy for you, so you just have to stay right here for the next hour. But up now is Maria Yuan, the recipient of the 2021 American Express NGen Leadership Award. Now, for over 10 years, Independent Sector has presented this prestigious award to one emerging leader whose creative and collaborative leadership is helping to solve an intractable community challenge. Then later, we'll hear from Congresswoman Betty McCollum, Dan Cardinale, and Nonoko Sato about a new initiative to ensure that the nonprofit sector has a permanent seat at the table of federal policymaking. This is going to be an exciting hour, so let's get going. I'd like to introduce Richard Brown, Vice President of Philanthropy at American Express. Now, American Express generously supports this award and the NGen Fellows Program, which are part of Independent Sector's work for more than a decade. Welcome, Richard, and how are you doing today?
Doing well, thank you. How are you?
Now, very well, and so glad to have you here. And thank you for all of your generous support for over a decade, as we mentioned. This has got to be an aspect of your position that you really relish, giving this award.
Well, yeah, and I've been involved with this particular award now since its inception, some 12 or so years ago, and each year I have the opportunity to be involved in the award ceremony. So it's really has been an annual fall event for me, and it's a pleasure. It's an honor to be able to do so. It's great to be able to meet both the fellows as well as the NGen awardees. So it's been a really great honor and pleasure for me. It's great to be able to meet these phenomenal leaders in the nonprofit sector, which we all rely on so heavily. So thank you.
Well, the pleasure is all ours. And without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to you, Richard Brown.
Thank you, G, and the independent sector. It's a pleasure to join you again at Upswell and to represent American Express. On behalf of the entire American Express team, I want to say how grateful we are for the deep partnership we have developed with the independent sector. Over the past 12 years, we've been proud to foster the potential of over 140 nonprofit and philanthropic leaders through NGen programming. The American Express Fellows Program invests annually in 12 individuals who show exceptional potential to address society's toughest challenges. I'd like to recognize the current cohort of fellows who are hosting an Upswell workshop later this week. I'd also like to recognize the many NGen Fellow alumni and American Express Leadership Academy alumni who are joining us for Upswell. We are also proud to support the American Express NGen Leadership Award, which honors an emerging social purpose leader, age 40 or under, who is demonstrating significant impact in addressing a community challenge and accelerating transformative social change. Let me pause to recognize all of this year's awards finalists. I commend all of you on your amazing work and collaborative leadership. Alessandro G. Bays Degak, Andrew Plum Lee, Kashif Sheikh, Megan Shea, Nick Monzi, and Richard Reyes, all trailblazers in their respective fields. Now it is my honor to introduce our 2021 American Express NGen Leadership Award recipient, Maria Yuan. Maria found IssueVoter, a nonpartisan resource that makes civic engagement accessible. The online platform enables individuals to stay informed on key issues. It amplifies their voices and tracks their representative voting records. Her leadership enabled IssueVoter to launch new partnerships with organizations that are serving communities whose voices were previously unheard and widening the avenues for civic engagement. 3 years ago, Maria participated in the American Express Leadership Academy Emerging Innovators Bootcamp with Ashoka, which annually prepares 125 changemakers from around the globe for intensive training, expert guidance, and peer support. It's been incredible, Maria, to witness your amazing journey. And now you're continuing to make an impact. It brings me joy to see how others are also recognizing your leadership potential. So congratulations, Maria. We are all looking forward to hearing about your experiences and how you established IssueVoter.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here. And it's such an honor. I remember hearing about all of the amazing things that Amex does for young leaders and new leaders and for change in the sector. And I'm just really happy to be honored and a part of that. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So for all of you out there listening, if you haven't met me, I hope that someday we will get to a chance to meet soon. I'm going to talk a little bit about, was mentioned, how IssueVoter was founded, a little bit about me, and then hopefully ways that all of us can get involved. So, I am really committed to a democracy that works for all of us because my dad's family fled communist China. And growing up in the United States, my parents always voted and taught me the value of civic duty at a young age. And I will say that growing up, if you had asked me if voting was required, I probably would have said yes. It wasn't until I got to high school when I realized that it's really only around 50% of people who are eligible to vote who actually do it. In second grade, I still remember that our teacher did a simple activity in class that stayed with me till this day, which was mock voting. And I experienced democracy and the active civic participation at 7 years old. And it felt powerful. I felt included, plus it was fun. And really, voting is one of our most fundamental rights. So inspired by my parents, I went to manage a campaign in Iowa, a state, as you probably know, is known for its voter engagement. And I realized, though, that voters had a simple key question, which was, is my rep actually representing me? And it was so frustrating that there was, frankly, no easy way to know what happens between elections when the real work that affects our lives gets done. So in Iowa, just like everywhere else, people are super engaged during election season and disengaged during the off season. And Iowa taught me two things. Well, it taught me more than two things, but two of the things that it taught me were that, one, I didn't necessarily want to work in politics. Like most of us, I didn't agree with either party 100% of the time. And two, politics and campaigns can overshadow what's important and what the theme of today is, which is policy. So think about something that you care about. Take a moment to think about an issue you care about. Is it the future of our planet? Is it racial justice? Is it our healthcare system, education, the economy? We are a nation built on laws. So policy change is what creates the lasting, sustainable, and better future that we envision. And I would remind everyone that even though politics can feel really polarized, especially right now, there are so many issues that the majority of Americans do support. But in order for this to happen, democracy requires our participation. And at the same time, it's hard to be engaged. So did you know that over 15,000 bills are introduced each session of Congress? Approximately 1,000 of them are voted on. How many new bills have you heard about? 1? 5? If it's 5, you've missed 995 bills. And so while every constituent contact is tracked, and reports are delivered directly to members of Congress and their staff that summarize what their district cares about, channels to contact Congress still involve really outdated forms of communication, including fax machine, snail mail, and even what is more and more starting to sometimes feel outdated, which is picking up the phone. And so all of those reasons are why I founded IssueVoter. And our mission is to give everyone a voice in our democracy by making civic engagement accessible, efficient, and impactful. And here's how it works. So first, what you do is you would choose the issues that you care about. Whether it's a single issue or multi-issues, we track everything in one place. And then you get alerts before Congress votes on an issue that you care about and that you probably haven't heard about in the news. And IssueVoter translate these bills into layman's terms, into plain language from both sides. It's becoming increasingly more difficult, it feels like sometimes, to find nonpartisan resources with opinions from both sides in one place. And so you can kind of think of IssueVoter as Wikipedia Yes, the information is out there, but we bring it all together and make it really easy to understand and take action. And so different from Wikipedia, it is actionable. We send your opinion directly to your senator's and member of Congress's office with one click, directly to the staffer in charge of constituent contact. And having worked for a rep, I do know that these messages are not ignored. And what's more is we actually had a conversation with a former member of Congress 2 weeks ago. And he said that what he loved about IssueVoter was that he knew that people sending opinions from IssueVoter were informed. It wasn't necessarily just that they saw something inflammatory in the news and were upset, or it wasn't just necessarily that their friend said, hey, click this button. It was someone that did have the opportunity to read both sides and did have the opportunity to really understand some of the aspects of the bill. And I also want to make clear that, as a nonprofit, IssueVoter is not a poll to sell your data. It's not a text message or petition to be ignored by Congress. And then finally, we enable each individual to see the percentage of time their rep is voting, how they would want him or her to vote throughout the year. So for example, you could see your rep is representing you 10% of the time, 80% of the time, whatever that number is. And the goal there is to become more informed voters. This coming year, 2022, we're coming up on the midterm elections, and I would just use this opportunity to remind everyone to vote in the primary elections. As you probably know, it's really the primary elections that can make a big difference in who becomes your next elected official. So where we are today with IssueVoter, and that we're really proud of, is that we do have people in all 435 congressional districts and DC sending their opinions to Congress. And as a nonprofit, beyond, just looking at, how many people are using IssueVoter, how many people have sent their opinions, we're really excited to see that 37% of people using IssueVoter said it's what motivated them to vote in the 2020 election. 83% were motivated to take other forms of civic action, like registering to vote or attending a town hall meeting. 89% have said they're seeing issues for the first time. 33% have changed their voting decisions. And 74% have been exposed to new viewpoints. I have even heard people say, before IssueVoter, I didn't even know there could be another side to this issue. So I would like to really, break this down into something that is easy to use, that everyone can use, and that saves people time. And so hopefully you're thinking, this is great. How can I get involved? And it's easy. You are probably on your computer or your laptop or some kind of device right now. So you can simply open your browser to issuevoter.org. And honestly, just by the simple act of signing up, you can start to become part of a movement of more informed constituents and be able to make your voice heard between elections. And I think that's really just the first step. So Richard mentioned, some of that we partner with other organizations. And I had mentioned as part of our mission, it really is to reach everyone. So to give you a couple examples, we partner with an organization called Right to Vote, and we deliver legislative summaries and explainers to individuals across over 400 prisons. And so these individuals are able to get information without even having access to the internet. So that's just one example. We also partner with local civic organizations like the Lorain County Urban League and an organization in Denver called Warm Cookies of the Revolution. And with those organizations, we connect their local communities to national legislation. So I would love for all of us to kind of take a moment right now and really imagine a world where our democracy truly represents the people, where we know who represents us, where we are each informed year-round about the policy that affects our lives, and where we can easily make our voices heard in the most impactful way. And so, all of us here at Upswell know that we can't do this work alone. It's never one organization or it's never one person. It really takes everyone trying to do the work that they do to serve their communities, to make communities' voices heard, to amplify the issues and opinions of those in their communities. So I would invite all of you to, share IssueVoter. It is a free public resource. So, share IssueVoter with the communities that you serve, share IssueVoter with your friends, your families. I'm always happy to be introduced to individuals who might be interested in sharing IssueVoter, in amplifying what we do, and in partnering with us. And, beyond that, not only would I love for you to share IssueVoter and to meet others who you think could benefit from it, but also I welcome you to please reach out directly to me. I would love to connect with you. My email is maria@issuevoter.org, really easy. So feel free to reach out. And, by working together, I really believe that together we can transform our democracy. The importance of participation never goes away. And IssueVoter will be here to make sure your voice is heard, and giving people a voice is worth it. accountability and transparency are worth it, and the health of our democracy is worth it. So thank you.
Maria, thank you so much, and congratulations on being the 2021 American Express NGen Leadership Award recipient. That was an incredible slideshow there. I feel like I learned so much. I wanted to ask you a couple of questions. I mean, I feel like I'm definitely going to sign up for this. This is incredible. On top of that, you've given us a great call to action, not only that we can reach out to you directly, but that we definitely need to sign up to make sure that we are informed constituents here. But what would you challenge funders and nonprofits to do?
Yeah, the biggest thing I would challenge people to do is think about ways that you can be involved in policy beyond elections. So as I mentioned a little bit of really seeing this firsthand in Iowa, but so often people are so focused on elections. And that's not to say that they aren't important. Elections are absolutely very important. But I think of civic engagement as there being many different entry points. So for some people, it's registering to vote, and maybe that's the first step they take, and then they become voters, and then they become interested in other things. But for a lot of people, it's not the entry point. It's caring a lot about one issue, seeing something happen in their community that they're upset about, something along those lines, which can really help people get excited to make a difference. And when I say people, I really mean that term broadly. So IssueVoter, is a tool that is not just for people eligible to vote. We have high school students using IssueVoter. You do not have to be 18. You do not have to be a citizen to use IssueVoter. You can be a constituent, which is really anyone living in the United States has the right to make their voices heard. So the challenge I would say to nonprofits and funders is engage beyond elections, and for funders to fund the work and organizations that are really working between elections on civic engagement.
What are some of the benefits for organizations and individuals that engage with IssueVoter?
Well, I would say that for an individual, I think it's some of what I described, which is, just in a really easy way, trying to stay informed. We're all busy. I don't expect someone to spend hours on congress.gov themselves searching for legislation and reading through full bill text. I don't expect people to necessarily even know who their reps are. A lot of people don't know who their reps are, and I think sometimes people feel ashamed about that, but it's actually very common. And so I would say that the benefits are just like, we can make it really easy for you. But for organizations, I think that some of the benefits include being able to get a sense of what issues your community cares about, being able to get a sense of what bills they are sending their opinions on, whether or not they support those bills. We are a nonprofit. We do not sell people's data. We never sell individual data. But when we partner with an organization, we do share aggregate data with that organization only from the population of individuals that they are serving. So for example, we have partnered with some universities, and they have a page that would say, university invites you to be civically engaged year round. And then in aggregate, we will share with them, here are some of the top 3 issues that your students care about, just issue categories. And here are the bills that your students are sending opinions on, and the percentage of students overall that support and oppose these bills, so that the universities can get a better opportunity to potentially inform their own programming. So when they're thinking about bringing speakers to campus, or when they're thinking about, what some of the student clubs will be doing on campus, and informing kind of that ongoing day-to-day engagement, and also for young people being able to really, for the first time, start to form their political identities.
I'm seeing so many people on the group chat saying that they have already signed up for IssueVoter. So that's fantastic.
Thank you.
What gives you hope about this work going forward?
I think that, I'll be really candid about this. IssueVoter is 100% nonpartisan, but we launched the day after the 2016 election, not in reaction to the election results, planned launch date. And so before this year, IssueVoter is an organization that has only existed under one administration, one presidential administration. And so we weren't necessarily sure if people, just the general public, would have more or less engagement with a new presidential administration. And so what we've seen that gives me hope is that it actually has stayed just as strong as when we launched. And so we see that people are continuing to stay engaged, which is so important. The other thing that gives me hope is Congress itself becoming more interested and flexible with technology. And so we know that maybe in Congress, there are a lot of things that move slower potentially than the private sector, than like a big tech company. But we know through working with staff on the Modernization Committee, the Select Committee for Modernization, and the Staff Modernization Association, that Congress also is really interested in more efficient ways for them to understand and connect with their constituents, which is great.
Well, talk about modernization. You mentioned fax machines. That's a little scary.
They definitely still use them.
What are your goals for this coming year? I know you've got some big ones and a lot of challenges ahead too.
Yeah, well, our ongoing goal is always awareness, but some specific programmatic and kind of feature things that we're excited about is we are looking to launch an app in 2022. So it was a conscious decision to be web first. And in 2022, we're really excited that we'll be able to roll out an app. Something we're hoping to do in 2022, but have not yet raised the funding for, is to be able to create a multilingual version of IssueVoter. And so something else that really made me surprised is that when I was looking at what else is out there, Congress.gov is only in English. Some of the other resources are only in English and Spanish, and that's a great first step. But there are actually no multilingual resources for policy legislative information, even at the federal level, which was really surprising, frankly, and pretty disappointing. And so we're really hoping to actually create a multilingual abilities on our website. And some of you listening may know this. There are 41 million native Spanish speakers in the US, and there are 63 million households in the US that don't speak English at home. And so I think it's very important, as part of our mission, to give everyone a voice, to be able to actually reach all people and to have the information accessible to people. And if we don't have a multilingual version, that's just frankly not possible. Then we're not doing it. Another thing kind of along those lines in terms of giving everyone a voice is reaching more high school students. And so we have teachers that were really excited about IssueVoter, and they took it upon themselves to write a lesson plan for us purely as volunteers. And we have some classrooms and teachers that are using IssueVoter, which is really exciting. But we would love to actually create some, we're not trying to all of a sudden, vastly become a different kind of organization and become an ed tech organization. But we're looking to really create some programming and put some more resources behind that lesson plan, and being able to share that lesson plan with other organizations out there that we know. We know there's iCivics and Generation Citizen and these other great organizations working with young people, and to be able to get that lesson plan out there. But we just haven't had the resources so far, at least, to put some real manpower behind that. So that's another goal for 2022.
Well, speaking of a multi-language platform on your app and sort of giving voices to the voiceless and incorporating high school students, this is piggybacking on what you've just talked about. But someone on the chat was mentioning Indigenous votes. Is that something that you're also thinking about?
Absolutely. And if you are someone who has connections to the Indigenous communities, I would love to connect. We'd love to be able to amplify, a lot of the federal bills that get voted on, and people don't realize this, like the general public doesn't necessarily realize this. It does have to do with Indigenous land. And there was a bill recently that was introduced related to access to broadband. And so I think that is absolutely something we want to do more of. I do have some connections through a fellowship that I did with individuals who are Indigenous Americans, but I don't have enough of those. So I would love to work together and collaborate.
So, Maria, I've worked in news for over a decade on local side and on the national side. And recently, there's just been this difficulty of getting the viewer, the reader, to believe that what you're reporting is accurate and unbiased. And you said, out of these, 15,000 bills, you'll break down some of the bills into just common plain language. How do you ensure that you're able to do that in a way that there's no bias? And that also, how do you get the app user, the person that's using IssueVoter, to trust the work that you're doing?
Yeah. So I think on the side of what we are doing, when we translate bills into layman's terms, we really are just breaking down, as simple as possible what the bill will do. And we will use language from the bill. So we try to cut down on the legalese. But for example, we don't call, if there's a bill related to guns, we won't say it's gun rights or gun control. I mean, it's a gun law. So we try to use neutral language as much as possible. That's like a very specific example. More broadly, we have strict editorial guidelines. And then also we really are just breaking down, like, this is literally what the bill will do without any judgment. Now, the opinions from both sides, I am very careful to say that these are opinions. It's not pros and cons. We're not a think tank. So these are literally what both sides are saying. And those opinion statements can be biased. And so when someone's reading both sides, they might see, one side might be a statement from someone that introduced the bill. And another side might be a statement from someone who is of a different political party than the person that introduced the bill. But for the reader and the person, looking at two opinions, how to kind of calibrate, oh, well, this is where I am. Not simply by looking at the party, but actually looking at what they're saying, because also something that more and more people realize after using IssueVoter is that there are many bills that have actually both Republicans and Democrats supporting the bill and have both Republicans and Democrats against the bill. And those are some of the kinds of bills that are not necessarily making kind of the 24-hour news cycle of national news. It's not that they're not being reported on, but they're not necessarily the mainstream things that everyone's hearing about. And so I think that the reason people really trust our information is because we are showing what both sides are saying. We also source all of our sources too. So someone could, still have their own bias. Like we might source a news source that someone, for whatever reason, thinks is biased. And then we might source another news source that someone kind of thinks, is on the other side. And then that's up to the individual to really use their own, everyone has their own filter. I mean, to some extent, nothing we do in life is 100% objective. There's always some individual experience and subjectivity that come into it. But really, yeah, just by bringing both sides into one place, I think that helps people a lot. Yeah.
I think that's fantastic. In journalism, we sometimes call that the truth sandwich, when we give one side and the other side, and then in the middle somewhere is the truth. So Maria Yuan, thank you so much for your presentation. And congratulations, you are the 2021 American Express NGen Leadership Award recipient. We so appreciate your call to advocacy, but also giving us a way to take up an advocacy role so easily by signing up with IssueVoter. Thank you so much for being with us, and congratulations.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Okay, we're wrapping up with Maria, but you know what? The next main stage is coming up. You don't even have to go anywhere. So next up, we've got Nanoko Sato. She is with the Minnesota Council of Nonprofits. We've also got Representative Betty McCollum with Minnesota's 4th District, and of course, our very own Dan Cardinale as well. So all that is coming up. You don't want to go anywhere. And in a few moments, actually, I'll see you right back here.